I've come to the village of Weybridge in the county of Surrey in England. It's down in the southeast corner of the UK. And like most of my visits, this is the first time here, so we'll just walk around and explore. A distinctive design on this stone, where the stylized cross is brought out in relief on the front of the stone, and this one is to James Bruce, who died in 1882, and his wife Anne. An interesting design on this one, and the inscription too is dedicated to Hal, 2nd Lieutenant, Royal Engineers, and then it's got Royal Flying Corps, age 21, who went west. February the 27th, 1917. Went west, presumably is the slang in the Flying Corps when you didn't come back. One thing that strikes you straight away about this graveyard is how neatly it has been kept. The grass is mowed very well between all the stones. This one is dedicated to Lionel Albert, the second son of Major Albert Valiant, HEICS, Honourable East India Company, 9th Bombay. A nicely decorated table tomb here, and the inscription on the side here is to Robert Lowe, who died in 1883, and his wife Mary Ann. And some people have more than their share of unhappiness. There's David Bernard Humphreys and presumably his wife Dorothy May Humphreys, and then it names their two children, Alan David, who died aged 8 months, and Mary Ann, who died aged 3 years. This one stands out with the very brightly coloured emblem at the top, and the inscription indicates that he was a soldier who died in 1913, a Belgian soldier. A large plot here with this cross, and the inscription at the base tells us it's dedicated to the Sisters of the Holy Infant Jesus, the Dames of St. Maur, M-A-U-R, I think. And then underneath is a French inscription. Memorials here. The first one is to J.F. Shell, the Rifle Brigade, 1918. And the one behind, T.F. Ives, Royal Berkshire Regiment, 1918. Distinctive design on this one. All that work that's gone into the cross, stylized cross, and the name is to Elizabeth Maria, wife of James Edmund Harting. Very carefully carved, that stone. This one's interesting in the way they've brought out the leaves in relief on the face of the cross, and up in the top corner here is the peace dove, all carved out of one piece of stone. We have the forlorn looking lady on this grave. No wings, I'm assuming it probably isn't an angel, looking heavenward. Something a little different here, a rough piece of rock, and then the cross has been carved into it, and on the right hand side the letters have been let in lead. A stone here on the ground, horizontal, Louise Johnson Mishevich, born in St. Petersburg and died in Weybridge. One here who moved a lot in his life, Dr. Maurice Asher of Lithgow, New South Wales, Australia, and who died here in Weybridge. One of the ever-present sad angels, this one clinging to the cross, looking heavenward. And this one has this very unhappy looking woman at the base of the cross with her face in her hands. Here's another war memorial here. Private Leslie George Lemon, Machine Gun Corps, March 1919, aged 24. And the family have paid to have the extra words put at the base of the stone: in loving memory, thy will be done. In the corner of this graveyard we have this pier with this carved picture of a woman. Very well done. Now, a group of graves here, all in very similar design, and the name on at least two of them is Loch King. Now, Loch King were famous around here because it was on their land and under their efforts that the famous Brooklands racecourse, motor racing course, was built in 1907. The first dedicated motor racing track in the UK, and was responsible for a lot of the development of the motor car in this country, where they were tested and raced. The track existed until just after the start of the First World War, when it was taken for government requirements and then never rebuilt again after the war. So this is the Loch Kings of Brooklands fame. Now, you'll have to excuse the noise in the background. The graveyard is kept very, very neat, but it does involve the use of various bits of machinery to do that. And the chap is busy sorting out the loose cuttings at the moment. This one is to Mike Riley, the pioneer of British sport parachuting, 1931 to 1962. Given the fact he was only 31 when he died, one suspects that it was a pretty dangerous pastime back then. Next to him is John Gleeson, who was almost exactly the same age, aged 32, only John was killed by enemy action in 1940. This one has got the insignia of the RAF on it, and it's Bertram William Miles, pilot officer, RAF navigator, killed in action 1944, just 22 years old. Came from a military family by the look of it, because his father was William Miles, MM, Military Medal. This one is to George Justin Limsky, KT, Knight, so that's Sir George Justin Limsky, Judge of the High Court of Justice. I'm afraid we've still got machinery noise in the background, but I had to show you this one, this very elaborate one. On the left, perhaps that's Virgin Mary, I don't know. On the right hand side could be Christ, and on up there by the cross is a young lady, and underneath the cross it says, "My Papa to me, he was so wonderful, I miss you sadly, loving daughter Cecilia." And then George Reynold Valley. This one here is to Flight Lieutenant Peter L. Huggins, RAF Volunteer Reserve, 3rd of September 1945, aged 24, killed on active service. Somebody's made a real effort on this grave. It's an absolute riot of colour. Something a little bit more modern here, with these curvy pieces at each side of the grave, and the memorial in the middle is to poor Henry Desty, a sculptor. So one suspects that this is his work. To give you a close-up of one of these pieces. Very simple memorial on this one. Probably quite recently put up, I think. It reads Ernest Frederick Sparks, 53, May Sparks, 55, Lillian Margaret Sparks, 27, Joan Margaret Fairhead, 19 months, all died together in a bombing at Vale Road, Weybridge, 23rd of February 1944. It has been put up recently, or relatively recently. It does indicate they're still remembered. Somebody still thinks about them after all these years. This one is to Brigadier Thomas B.A. Leahy, CMG DSO, 1878 to 1947. An excellent piece of carving here. This has all been taken out of one piece of stone. I've looked to check and it doesn't seem as though the figure of Christ has been put on afterwards. It looks to be the same block of stone as the cross behind. That must take quite some carving to do that. The memorial is for John Henry White, who died in 1908. The inscription on this is quite interesting. It's Dame Octavie Vans Epaulus du Chevalier de Donna et au Ni Elige, died in 1850. That's quite a mouthful there. Somebody will know who she was. Two stones here which draw a nice parallel of the different forces in the First World War. This one here is to G.F. Simpson of the Royal Air Force, 1918. The Royal Air Force was only formed in March 1918 from the Royal Flying Corps. Now that was one of the most advanced forms of warfare we had in those days, was air warfare. And across here we have Second Lieutenant H.J.F. Wilson of the King Edward's Horse, 1919, age 27. A lot of horses were used in the First World War. Thousands of them died in the thick mud and the bullets flying there. So here we have the old style horse artillery, and over here we have the modern aircraft existing in parallel. This is one of the larger memorials in the graveyard here, but it hasn't worked out quite right. We've got this metal cross at the top, which has the water raining down from that has killed the lichen, but also it has stained the stone underneath. It's to Rosa Emily, the beloved wife of Henry Lake Cochran. Well, I'm going to leave Weybridge Cemetery at this point. Fascinating, lots of interest. Apologies for the background noise, but they do keep this cemetery, this graveyard, in immaculate condition. So we can't really complain too much if the chap's running around with a strimmer and a blower, ensuring it is kept so neat. Anyway, till the next time.